you're right. Growing up, I mean, I read biographies. Before I started reading novels, I started reading biographies. And then once I started reading novels, I recognized that they were much more interesting versions of biographies.
Reading a book is the scorpion in the mouth because it takes true effort, focus, and intent. And one wrong move and you'll get stung, which is kind of like, there's been times I will read a full page of a book and cannot remember a singular thing that I just read. And maybe that's football brain. Maybe that's because I got bashed in the head too many times.
The way that we learn to talk is by assimilating. We learn sentence structure, we learn composition, we learn how to read the other person. I'm generally too cool for words, but that comes from the stair pits. Let me open, because I actually have something to say today.
Please, absolutely.
That's okay with you.
Hey, it is your podcast, sir.
Again, what part of the bus do you sit in?
The back.
Correct. Just want to make sure. That's it.
February's over.
That's it.
Freaking, my 28 days of fun are over.
That's right.
But Juneteenth comes along.
That's exactly
We're back.
it, baby. That's
Yep.
it. Mm-hmm. On that day, I generally celebrate Garfield's birthday.
That's right. I remember you told me that.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
You just have to look at it. There's a lot of things you can look at.
That is true. End of slavery, Garfield's birthday. Tomato. I mean, come on.
Hint. Slavery is still here. So is Garfield.
Very true, sir. Very true.
Nothing's changed.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah. So welcome to another exciting example of, what's this called? Stair Pits podcast. Hey, I'm totally in the game on that.
It's only the book that he wrote and published here, everyone.
Yeah, sometimes I forget. But
I mean, you are old and decrepit.
What are we talking about?
Huh? The Alzheimer's already kicking in for you. Yep.
Who are you?
Yeah. You put your dentures in today, though, so you look really nice. Yeah.
I have different sets.
Yep, absolutely.
No, so I talked previously when I wore my shirt that had the green sailboats and the wasps on it. And I said that I would wear the blue one. So here's an example of the blue one. And I actually did get the shirts out and compared them.
Yeah.
And it is the exact same. I mean, the little sailboats are in the exact same place.
Wow.
It's not a variation on the pattern at all. It's pretty clean. They are. I thought they might be slightly different, but they're not. And then also the little kind of like sad blue that's on it. It's kind of this shirt is even more pathetic. And I got this one for I think I got this one for like $9.
Yeah. Were you ever able to find the correlation between the sailboat and the wasp?
It's designed for people that have deep-seated emotional problems and will buy stuff on sale.
Mm.
That's what it is.
Okay.
Has no other. That's the only thing I can determine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I threw out all other possibilities. So, but it is something at some point. When I do find somebody else wearing the same shirt, I plan on interviewing that person extensively to find out how and why they bought the shirt.
Gotcha.
And at some point, maybe actually working back to the manufacturer as to what person greenlit this, how drunk were they, and was it going into a 3-day weekend? I think all of that hints into it.
Okay. I love it.
That's my thoughts. I have some thoughts on that.
100%.
Also, for the people at home, I was thinking, how could we juice this thing? How could we make it more exciting for everybody? Okay. And my thought is, the person that puts the best or any comment, I think we have one comment so far. Okay, so it's not hard to become the best one. The best one, I think, has 4 fire things on it, which is really cool, although it's fire.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you put in 5, that moves you like into the top spot. It's not that hard. That's, with your finger.
Yes.
And you win something. And what do you win? Check this out. A Starbucks straw that is BPI certified. And I think that means made with biodegradable product. I'm not entirely certain. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I really cared, I could have looked it up. That's lack of preparation.
That's okay.
But that's what I'm going with.
Yeah.
But it's an unused straw. And this straw is a holdover from the COVID era.
Wow.
So vintage straw from a pandemic. Best comment can win this very straw. and we'll send it to you. And I think that will get people to comment.
I like it. I like the idea.
Well, it's
Yes.
desperate.
Yes.
I mean, it really is.
You know, and you know, I'll come up with some sort of prize, and I'll throw it in the raffle as well.
Dude, don't go and shit all over my straw. The straw is straw is the hero.
I'm not shitting on it. I'm just going to add to it.
You're diminished. Believe me, this straw is easily diminished.
It's fair.
So I'm just saying, next contest, it can be something slightly better.
Yeah. Well, as someone who was living in Ephraim, Utah during the pandemic, that is something I would have enjoyed.
Yeah, no, because it's 1,001 uses.
Yes.
I mean, it's a straw. It's something you can spit balls with.
Yeah.
You know, there's actually a reason to the straw on it. When I drink coffee, even hot coffee, out of a straw, and that's so it doesn't further stain my teeth. It only stains the back of my teeth.
And nobody's really looking at the back except for your dentist.
Exactly.
Love
then
it.
he thinks that I have some weird disease that's still the back of my teeth.
Yeah.
And I just tell him I don't. That's why I was born. Confuses him.
Exactly.
There.
As it should.
So let me ask you this. When people think about reading, okay, people think about different forms of communication, right? What do you think is the big difference between, like, if we're going to go talking, having a conversation in person, okay, having a conversation in person, having a conversation on text, watching something like TV or movie or, something like that, audio podcasts or radio, and then reading like an actual book or reading something that's a novel that's a story. Okay, so I kind of want to dig into a little bit of those things. Okay. At what point does reading become the cultural equivalency of holding live scorpions in your mouth?
I didn't think that's where that was going. So that I like the turn.
We can get it. We can get a live scorpion if you're having a hard time understanding what it is.
Yeah,
we can make it better.
I like the analogy, and I think it's kind of reached that point right now. I mean, again, you're 67, I'm 28, so we have different views on reading and literature and things like that, right? My reading has much more been technological, right? Reading from a device, reading from an iPad, reading from a computer screen as I go throughout my educational and recreational life, right? Your reading has been much more, I would say, probably literature, right? Paper, pen to paper, things like that, newspapers, thesauruses, dictionaries, the good reads you like. And I think the live scorpion in your mouth, it's kind of taking place right now, at least for my generation, because those other things that you talked about are fairly easy, okay? Not everybody my age, as I've come to realize, will sit and look at you face to face, eye contact, and have a real meaningful conversation, okay? So that is somewhat difficult for people, especially for, coming out of the pandemic, as you mentioned at the start of this podcast. It was hard for some people to get back into the flow of things, at least the younger generation. Texting, easiest thing in the world for my generation to do, right? And that reading is obsolete because we just kind of browse through it, give a response, browse through it, give a response. That's no problem. Movies, half the time we're doing other stuff while the movie's happening, right? Well, half the time I'm playing on my phone when I'm watching a movie or watching a TV show. Unless I'm in the movie theater, then I'm freaking locked in. Podcast, we're sitting there listening, right? Half of it you don't digest anyways. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to, because a lot of people, I like to focus on the podcast I'm listening to, but I know a lot of people that play it as just kind of background music, right? Along with TV shows. Radio is pretty much non-existent with my generation because we're able to Bluetooth into our cars, listen to our own playlists, do those types of things. Reading a book is the scorpion in the mouth because it takes true effort, focus, and intent. And, one wrong move and you'll get stung, which is kind of like, there's been times I will read a full page of a book and cannot remember a singular thing that I just read. And maybe that's football brain. Maybe that's because I got bashed in the head too many times. But then I have to backtrack, refocus, put actual energy and effort into not simply reading, but comprehension, which I think is two different things. Okay. My generation knows how to read because of texting.
Mm-hmm.
We don't fully know how to comprehend without true focus and getting dialed into something, also because of texting. So I think reading has now become kind of the scorpion in the mouth compared to all those other things, just because they've become so easy for my generation to kind of absorb and multitask with texting and other things like that, and movies and TV shows and radio. But reading still takes a true, genuine focus that not everyone my age has.
I agree with you, and let's even break that down a little bit more.
That was a long answer. I apologize.
No, it's a great answer, because I think it explains an awful lot of things on it. And here's an example of it. When you conflate the idea of reading and communicating or communicating via words that are entered into a keyboard of some sort. Okay, so keyboard-based words versus mouth-based words. Okay, the difference on that is the immediate purpose and objective of reading a text is pretty obvious. I mean, the text is, look at this, what are you doing, where are we meeting, do you want to get something to eat, what are you doing? I mean, it's very simple. I mean, the original idea before X was X, when it was Twitter, they had a limited number of characters you can put in there. And the idea was you would never need to do much more than that, because it was just simple little boom, boom, boom hits, right? And then because people are clever, all of a sudden the RU and 12,000 acronyms came into place, because that way you could extend in a restricted character account, you could come up with something. But I think that observing and digesting information from a text is entirely different than reading.
Absolutely.
So I think, but in there is an example that I think from a generational component, the idea of getting information is something that people will do. They will read texts. And yeah, a lot of them are emojis, and that, after you have the idea of a few words and then the response of a few words, then there's an emoji off on the end, or some, an agreement, as opposed to shaking hands. It's a smile and a wave. But in that form of text communication, there's no subtext and there's no nuance in it. So like, for instance, say the word, okay, fine.
Okay, fine.
Okay, good. Now, you come home, if I come home to my wife and I ask her, and she's sitting in a dark room, and I say, how are you? And she says, okay, fine. Does that mean okay, fine?
Probably not. I would guess there's an underlying...
No. And she doesn't say, okay, fine. She says, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't mean... the worst thing in the world is, well, that's great, because, I just came home and I was going to go out and do something else. That's not the right time to drop that one on.
Yeah, for sure.
But that whole sense of when you're communicating via text, you don't get the okay, fine. It's very hard to read the okay, fine. People might all caps it. Not really. It doesn't mean anything. That's your anger, but there's, there's lowercase, uppercase. That's, okay and emotional, or okay and mad, or okay and happy. But it doesn't mean anything. Emotions aren't binary. They're totally gray. So I think that, well, let me ask you this. In reading a novel, what do you think the value in reading a novel is?
I think the value of reading a novel is you have to read to understand and comprehend something. Okay.
No, but not even there. That's you're going into the mechanics of it. I don't want the mechanics. I want what is the value. You're giving me the process. I don't want process. I want what is the value.
But let me add that. So one of my favorite quotes is today the biggest problem with communication is that we simply listen. We don't listen to understand someone. We simply listen to reply.
Correct.
Okay. And that has to do a lot with text, right? The reason reading text is so easy is because we're simply reading to reply to something.
Correct.
Not reading to understand anything.
Stimulus response.
Yes. So I think the value of reading gives you the ability you are forced to then read for comprehension and read to understand, rather than the majority of the reading that we do today is reading to reply to something.
So let me ask you that. In the concept of comprehension, what is the goal? What should be the comprehensive goal in reading?
I don't know.
See, it's a good thing that scorpion ain't in your mouth.
That is a good thing. Yeah,
that's it. So what do you think it is?
The comprehensive goal.
Yeah,
in reading.
So if one of the advantages of reading then would be comprehension, right?
Yes.
So then the answer is, what is the value of comprehension?
I mean, I think the value of comprehension is the opportunity to learn something.
What would you learn?
I think it depends on your perspective.
No.
You don't think so?
Correct.
I mean, because I think different people, everybody's going to learn something different from this book, depending on the perspective in which they've seen their life.
But I'm looking at a meta thing. That's a good way to squirm out of that.
Thank you.
Pretty good example. But it's not going to work.
Okay.
I'm going to bore down a little bit
Absolutely.
more. So I agree that everybody will take in different pieces.
Yes.
So it's the whole idea of, I remember today, in fact, is the birth date of my father-in-law, who's no longer with us. And he had never been to a McDonald's. And so he and I were going to, I was one of the rare people that actually got a chance to see Todd Marinovich throw a touchdown pass.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's like one of very few.
Absolutely. Yes.
So we went to a McDonald's on our way to a Raider game in the Coliseum in Southern California. And he'd never been to a McDonald's. And he walked into a McDonald's and he was amazed that the menu was on a lit board behind the counter.
Yeah.
But to him, it was like he'd never been to a fast food place before. Yes. And he couldn't believe that the menu was up there. And his comment was, I bet they save a lot of money by not printing menus.
Wow.
Okay.
That
was his takeaway from McDonald's. And to me, it's like, well, of course.
Yeah.
But it's like, and wait, go through the drive-thru and it's right there too. Right.
Yes.
So there was a lot of things like his what he learned from McDonald's was that there were restaurants that the waiter didn't bring you a menu.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was like brand new to him. And he thought that it might have been more like a cafeteria thing, and he couldn't believe that people would stand up in the lines and go forward. He just was totally amazed at the whole logistical component of McDonald's, nothing to do with the food.
Interesting, okay.
And he talked about it for like 6 months.
Yeah.
That's all he talked about was his trip to McDonald's. And it's kind of amazing. So I think that what I'm looking at is the meta version, like the higher up version. Because, if you were going to read something on, George Washington, you might come up with the fact that the guy's name was George Washington, that he was president of the United States. He was the first president of the United States. And you could probably come up with those ideas right off the bat. I mean, those things would be a little bit into it. And then you might have the idea that he was also a general, and you might learn some other things about him. You might learn that he had wooden teeth. Okay, so there might be 5 or 6 things you might take away from that. And if you're reading a, 500-page book on George Washington, and that's all that you came away with, my feeling is you were playing video games or looking at your phone a real lot, and that you turned pages, but you never read.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a value in reading versus face-to-face conversation. Among the advantages of face-to-face conversation is you can learn what the other person is saying. As an example of what we're doing right now, we can break down and stop the conversation and focus in on specific elements, right?
Yeah.
And that makes it much, much easier. Also, in speaking, most of our grammar is hell. We don't use particularly good grammar. And when you're writing, there might be a compulsion to use decent grammar. So there's a little bit of a barrier there on competency.
For sure.
Okay. So if we were to step that back and look at it, what is the big picture? What is the meta version? What is the meta value of reading versus other forms of communication? Because I think there's 2.
I don't know. Teach me. I want to learn.
Okay, good deal.
Thank you.
We have to go back to the state capitals that have the name city in them because they have nothing to do with it. But
Gotcha.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you got it, Caleb. You can giggle over there all you want. You didn't do it either.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. So no. Yeah, that's it. No, that's right. So this is the way I would look at it. The first advantage of reading, well, let me ask you this. When you're reading, what does the character, let me ask you this. If you were reading, as opposed to a comic book, if you were reading a textbook of Iron Man, okay?
Yeah.
Does he look different than Robert Downey Jr.?
Is this me having never seen Iron Man?
Having never seen it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the value in reading?
Maybe it gives you a chance to create a creative space in your mind, I guess.
Absolutely. It forces you to bond with the character because you at that point are creating the character.
Gotcha. Yes.
Okay. And what is the value then of being able to create that character? What is the value of that?
I mean, in my head, it's a simple reminder that proves that you have the opportunity to be creative in anything.
Right. I think that's true. Number one, it encourages your creativity, and then you're able to work through creativity. And then your capacity to talk about your version of Tony Stark and me talking about my version of Tony Stark, we would then come up with a compromise version of what Tony Stark looked like, right?
Yeah.
But here's the other example. Much the same way that I have great admiration for this COVID-era straw that you could get by putting comments in this podcast sent to you. I have a lot of ownership of this and love of this because I picked it up and it's mine and I created it. And when you threatened it with another prize, I immediately defended it because it was mine.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to put you down, honey, now, and the scary black man won't hurt you. Over here. Just put it behind my ear.
There you go.
And that'll be safer.
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing is, when you take time to create that character in your mind, you now have ownership over that character, and that character now goes through the maze of the book. And because you have some ownership of that character, your willingness to feel what that character feels, that character becomes a conduit for the emotional and the journey of the character. Okay?
Yep.
And that's significantly different than watching it. Because when you're watching it, it's this person. Okay? And if you look at like a movie like The Departed, everybody in The Departed pretty much looks the same. And I'm saying that as a white person who can identify the difference in most white people.
There you go.
Okay, but
yes.
it's they all kind of look the same. Okay, and it's hard if you don't know who they are. It's very hard to determine, well, which guy am I looking at? And I think that was part of the movie, is that they were all just incredibly interbred within the same sense of corruption that existed. But that capacity to create then gives you a tie-in and a bond of being able to follow that person throughout it. I think that's one of the advantages that you get, is that it allows you to see that you can create, or that you can then make something out of nothing. And I think that that's huge. I think that the second piece beyond that, I think that's the first piece of being able to look at it, where if you look at people from my age and they're going to talk about their favorite books, they're going to have all these wonderful ideas. And you look at somebody, did you ever see the Tom Cruise versions of the Jack Reacher stories?
I've seen the first Jack Reacher.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah. So in the Jack Reacher story, Jack Reacher is like a giant man. He's like 6'7", right? He's huge. Lee Child's Jack Reacher on that.
Yes.
It's a good book, not as good as mine, but you can still buy it. Okay. So when Tom Cruise, who's maybe on a good day 5'8", is playing, when I first read that, I thought the entire cast is going to be dwarves, just so that Tom Cruise would look
for
big.
sure. Yeah,
that was my thought. This is going to be the best movie ever.
Yes,
because it's going to be more dwarves have ever been employed since, The Wizard of Oz. And instead, they had normal-sized people, and it was like, okay, the whole physical intimidation thing is lost because he's not the right size.
Yeah,
and the reason that died after 2 movies was it just didn't work. Okay, and then on the TV series, when they got the guy that played Aquaman looks like Reacher. I mean, big, imposing, scary-looking guy. And all of a sudden, there was some value in that, right? And then people could accept that worked.
Yeah.
But when you look at that connectivity that people had with the written version of Reacher, when the visual version came out, there was a disconnect and it wasn't as successful. So if you're looking at the power of that, I think it shows something there. We agree on that?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the second piece is this, that how did you learn to play baseball?
I mean, I know I'm sitting here wearing an Astros hat and an Astros shirt, Robert, but I hate to break it to you. I never played baseball. I only played a half a season of baseball. Realized I wasn't good at it. Mm-hmm. I'm a guy who quits at anything I'm not automatically good at, right? I pick my lanes and I stay in them only to find success, never failure. And and so it was hard for me to fail in the lanes that even I was good at, right? But how did I learn to play baseball? Coaches. So
before you ever put on a mitt, before you ever picked up a bat, a coach went and told you something.
Yes. Told me all because I never watched baseball, didn't know anything about baseball. Coach came to me to explain the rules.
But your brothers and you never had like a stick and a ball and tried to hit it in the
Never.
backyard?
Always football or basketball. That was it.
If you were Hispanic, do you think you would have done that? Or you just played soccer?
I probably would have leaned soccer.
Yeah, soccer base. I just thought it was maybe just a black thing.
Yeah. No, I think so.
Okay, so I'll use that one because that was a stupid example. Here's another one. Okay, it's really lame. Okay, we'll go this much on it. I didn't want to go racist on it, but I will.
Okay,
when you first learned to play polo.
I have ridden a horse.
Okay, no, it wasn't polo.
Okay, I have ridden a horse.
Of course you don't play polo. No one plays polo. When you first learned to play basketball.
Yeah.
How did you learn to play basketball?
A lot of it was watching TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then goofing around with your brothers, right?
Yes.
And then you kind of learned the rules. So you learn by assimilation as opposed to education, right?
Yes.
And then later you learn to play basketball well from coaching.
Yes.
Okay. So everything kind of works that way. The way that we learn to talk is by assimilating. We learn sentence structure, we learn composition, we learn how to read the other person. All of that, no one ever sits down and says, when you're year and a half years, whatever, 2 years old, okay, Max, listen, these are the vowels, A, E, I, O, U, sometimes Y, and those vowels are important because that's when you're able to breathe. So again, 18 to 25-month-old Max, what were those vowels again?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
like no one's going to do it. Okay.
For sure.
So, Mercedes, Max, it's a great word. There's 3 E's. Each one of them is pronounced differently.
I didn't know that. I knew there were 3 E's. I didn't realize
the word
they
Mercedes,
were all pronounced
right?
differently. Yes.
Yes. But there's the perfect example, right? There's comprehension versus knowledge. This thing is getting scared that you didn't know what Mercedes was.
Yes.
But no, but it's but that whole idea that, knowing, but seeing that, knowing it, and then being able to respond to it, entirely different.
Yeah.
So, and then also on the other hand, if you would have, let's say, read Mercedes, a whole bunch of times, your initial version of it would have been Mercerers.
Yeah.
Because you would not have understood that it's each time you're doing it, it's going to be different.
For sure. Yes.
So the Mercerers would have been, one of your favorite cars up until the point that you recognize you couldn't say it. Okay. But that whole idea of learning, we learn to speak by listening to others speak.
Yes.
Okay. And we learn how to communicate by watching others communicate. And back in the day, I've decided I'm sheltering it.
It about got away from you there.
I know. But I felt like I'm sheltering it. I'm not allowing it to grow to become the person that it has to be.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put it here next to the book where it can be closer to you.
There we go.
And that way people will want it because they'll see it. But also it will give you an opportunity to make it a stronger, better straw, which will make the value of it go up significantly
100%.
higher. Now it can be adopted by a minority family. So I feel much better. It'll be just like you, only white.
Absolutely. Yes.
Green on the inside.
Well, yeah, thank goodness it's colored on the inside.
Yeah, that's it.
So we're good there.
Much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, but I think that what the value of being able to read is you learn stories, you learn how things go into it, and you learn the specific names and the specific mechanics of how something goes forward, right? And there's one thing to hear the story. If you hear the story, you'll interpret it one way based upon what the person said and how they said it. Kind of the example of okay, fine could mean okay, fine, versus okay, fine from your wife doesn't mean okay, fine.
Yeah.
So that capacity to have an example of life, a snippet of life, that you can then see where the person started, where the person progressed, how they succeeded or failed, what obstacles they had, and then how those things played out. It's a way for you to have a path or a map in your head of how to do that. And I think that's the big piece of it. Like in reading the story of of George Washington, the advantage to that is you read the story of Valley Forge, and here's a guy where the people are basically freezing to death and dying, and the alternative is just to live under British rule. But he's able to keep the people engaged in fighting for their freedom, and the whole methodology of how do you take people that are basically being killed by nature and to fight through nature for a higher calling, a calling of freedom. Okay, watching that, it's interesting, but nobody could ever shoot that scene the right way. You have to read it to understand it, and it has to be written well for you to understand it. And in doing that, people that will read that will come up with 15 different examples of how George Washington did it versus one of just seeing it. And I think that one of the big disservices within a generation that grew up during the time of MTV was that you listen to a video has a song and an image, and all of a sudden that image is tied to that piece of music or tied to that particular song, and that's what it is. And it's nothing else. That's what it means. Like bump, 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 bump. All of a sudden I'm seeing Michael Jackson and squares lining up on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't think of anything else. That's just what it is. If I look at the Rolling Stones song Plain Black, there's the line, I see the girls walk by dressed in their summer clothes. I have to turn my head until their darkness goes. I don't know what that girl looks like. I just know she's hot.
Yeah.
Right. And there's something about that song that I remember the first time that I really kind of hit me as meaning something. I was in Portland, and it was in the summer. And this woman in a halter dress crosses the street in front of me, and she's maybe 20 and I'm like 40 something. And it was a girl walking by dressed in her summer clothes. And I'm watching her. I'm thinking, man, I'm married. Why in the hell am I looking at that woman?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm turning my head until my darkness goes. And I'm thinking, yeah, that Mick Jagger dude wrote a pretty decent lyric there.
Oh, for sure. And one of the things I'm still curious about is, I've always thought, is Stacy's mom
Really
Jesse's girl?
I think they are, yeah.
Right?
She's got it going on, yeah.
You're right? I mean, because there's the song Stacy's Mom, and then the song Jesse's Girl. I feel like that sounds like the same woman.
Pretty much is. Well, Dr. Noah Griffith, that guy, the guy's his heart was true.
Yeah,
yeah. That was it. The same person. She died in the operating table. That's
I'm telling my genre of song. I can broaden. I have a broad, horizon of music. Okay. Yeah. I don't just listen to rap and hip hop like you might think.
Yeah, no. Being able to go all the way back to, that's impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you. I don't know why I was thinking about this, but from your perspective, as someone who is now sitting on both sides, who do you think is more important in the equation of literature? Is it the author and their ability to write well and tell a story, or the reader and their ability to have a creative mind to then paint a picture of the story that they're reading? Which side is more important, the author or the reader?
I think it comes down, that's a really good question. I think it comes down to feeding children, right? If you have a very small baby and the baby's mouth is, this big, and you're trying to give him food that's bigger than his mouth, it's not going to work. And you have to recognize how big is the baby's stomach, and then what can you get it to doing from there. So you have to, as the person that's trying to communicate, has to be able to give people digestible bits of information. And if you look at somebody like Dr. Seuss, Dr. Seuss is the master of it. Red fish, blue fish, one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. Okay, the fact that once you understand simple rhyming schemes, you can 100% do Dr. Seuss.
Yes.
Okay, and that's great. Dr. Seuss actually got his start making propaganda films during World War II.
Really?
Yeah, cartoons on how to do things.
Yeah.
Like he had like, I think it was like Private Fubar, which stands for effed up beyond any recognition.
Yeah.
Right. He illustrated that whole piece. If you look at like Dr. Seuss, if you Google at home, Dr. Seuss World War II videos, it's funny because here's every Dr. Seuss character that you've seen from everything wandering around at that point. And he's talking about, loose lips sink ships and how to avoid social diseases. And, but it's kind of bizarre because it's like, dude, that's like Dr. Seuss. Okay. So there's the idea of being able to write. I think you have to be able to write in a way that that you're seducing and coaxing the person's imagination out of their head so that you can then provide continuity on how something is working, making sure that there's enough twists in it that the person doesn't get complacent, but at the same point, making it safe enough where the person can continue to read. And a lot of that just comes down to language and words. And the problem is, if you're only limited to the words that you have people say to you, you'll never be able to write because you'll never have the words. As a result, you'll never be able to communicate because now you're back to the example of, well, like looking at the Rick Springfield example, Stacy's mom has got it going on, and I wish that I had Jesse's girl. Well, okay, how do you feel about, our child being sick? Stacy's mom's got it going on.
Yeah.
Wish I had Jesse's girl. She's not sick.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So as a result, you're you're limited in the number of things you can say
For sure.
other than good, bad. And if people aren't looking for good, bad, then you're lost. And I think that's the thing that people don't see about reading. The value of reading is it gives you a logical way of being able to go forward. Reading also gives you a sense of what is correct sentence structure and what is the way that you can communicate the most with the least amount of words versus just talking it to death. How do you condense it down into a couple of sentences? And then how do you determine the value of those sentences and then being able to accept or parse them out or reject them and being able to go forward. But I think that when you're looking at people who can't explain something to you, who can't list more than 3 adjectives, there's a problem. And then you wonder why things don't work. Well, I mean, what happened? Oh, it sucks. Okay, well, it was just stupid. Oh, whoa. So,
yes.
And why did it suck? Well, it just sucks. Well, what happened? Well, my boss hates me. Well, why does your boss hate? Well, it sucks because he hates me. Okay. Does he hate you because it sucks? You're kind of running. Well, what happened? Yeah. Well, like my alarm hates me too. So I was playing, I was, doing something last night as I didn't get to sleep. And well, okay. So maybe your boss doesn't hate you. Maybe it didn't suck. Maybe it's kind of like you did something there.
Yes.
Well, but you don't necessarily, if your response is, if your response is going back to what you said about texting, right? If my response is, where are you? I'm late. Something happened, and then, there was a, there was a dragon at the intersection and traffics were blocked. Well, okay. You couldn't even come up with a particularly good lie, but it was, whatever it was. Yes, something happened. Okay, well, what? Something.
Yes.
It sucked. It's terrible. It sucked.
Yeah.
Right. So, but the thing is, people don't understand how to use the additional words, but you're not going to pick those words up anyplace else.
For sure.
And that once you get into the point that nobody is using those words, it condenses down dramatically. Like, for instance, like when you're on your mission, you speak the, weird Argentina faux version of Spanish. Right?
Castellano.
Sí.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So to give you an example of it, okay, I am now going, you and I are going to have a great Castellano conversation.
For sure.
Señor, y muy hungrio.
Vos tenés hambre, entonces.
Mi muy hungrio.
Claro, sí, yo sé. ¿Y qué quieres comer?
Taco.
Oh, hey!
Sí.
You do know what the hell I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I guess. Dude, that was it. I mean, okay,
That's
but the
awesome.
thing is, that's my entire capacity. I mean, I could have gone enchilada.
Yeah.
I also could have said perro, gato, azul, verde,
Yep.
rojas, negro, and blanco.
Look at that.
So that's really it.
For sure.
Like my German ability, I can say the small girl has large breasts, the large girl has small breasts, the large girl has large breasts, the small girl has small breasts. The church is the house of God, and there's a window on the door. Now, as long as the conversation is about that, that's my entire...
That vocabulary is about as versatile as it gets. And that's probably all you need.
Yeah, that's
inside the borders of Germany, anyways.
Right. And I also know all the prepositions that take the dative, which are bist, jetzt, für, gegen, ohne, wieder.
Okay.
Now I don't know what they actually mean anymore, but I've memorized them at one point. But that's so I have no capacity to communicate in that language.
Yeah,
because I don't have the words to describe anything.
For sure.
And I think that that's where reading comes into it, and it's kind of a long way around it of why my book is spectacular. And this is why you have to buy it. Number one, it's the only book that's ever been used to hold a prize as valuable as my COVID-era straw on top of it. So right there, look at how versatile that thing is. Plus, you can burn it for fuel. You could use it as like a place to hold a cup on top
Absolutely.
of it. 1,001 uses.
Yes.
But I think that what the book does is this. For the person that hasn't been reading, that views reading as a torture, as something that they had to do as opposed to watching, as opposed to dinking on their phone or watching sports or watching reruns of Friends or whatever else somebody wanted to do at that time, that reading was somehow an obstacle to that had absolutely no value. Well, if you can see the value of learning vocabulary, if you can see the value of learning how to communicate better, if you can see the value of increasing your capacity to imagine, those are all great things that you would think people would want. If you learn how somebody overcame or how somebody dealt with problems or what were the problems that somebody dealt with, facing those problems through a character gives you an idea of there's a way that those things, in fact, can be overcome. And so I think all of that is really, really, really valuable. And I think that my book was designed specifically for the person that doesn't want to read. And this comes down to shameless marketing and trying to exploit something. When you look at over 60% of the people out there don't want to read and they think that reading is stupid. It's because, like using the example of the baby, they're putting too big of a piece into the baby's mouth. It's getting caught. It's not getting to its stomach. It's coming right back out. Right? So I've written the book in a way that there's very, very, very short chapters. You get to the point, you get out of the point. Boom. I've tried to write it in the same form that web pages are done. I try to keep the story pretty simple. And the story is what happens when a child is raised without any guideposts, without any rails. Child can do anything that it wants. What does it do? And how does it learn? And then how does it apply what it learns? And that whole concept of being lost and not understanding the rules of the game, not understanding how things work, I think is something that everybody goes through in their life. And it gives you an example of a way through it. And I think that part of what I hope happens with the book is that the 60% of the people out there that have never read a book for pleasure would take this and would read it. Even from the point of the foreword by a friend of mine and a former coach of Max, was a professional football player. And he talks about just the beginning piece about what it was like, having this culmination of his entire being was to get to the NFL and what it was like running out on the field. And I think it's beautifully written. And I've been in that exact tunnel before. And the way that he described it was every way that I imagined it to be. It's just that when I was in it, they used to play a song with an actual band versus, playing tape.
Yeah.
But I recognized what it was like to be there. It was just like, my God, this guy totally nailed it. And unlike you, he writes much kinder things about me than you do. So, if he was here, but then it would just be two white guys talking about shit.
For sure. Yeah.
But anyway, but it wouldn't work as well. But I think that that's the real thing, that when you're looking at reading, it's not a punishment. It's actually the most effective ancient part of being able to communicate. And an example of that was, well, here's another good one for all of you, Charlemagne. Do you know what Charlemagne did?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I know Charlemagne the God,
yes,
right?
That's it. Yes, right. Okay, yes. So yeah, he's on a team. It's not the same guy, but the original.
I know the black. I know the black Charlemagne.
Yeah, but I'm talking the OG. Charlemagne. I'm talking Charlemagne 1.
Nope.
Right. So Charlemagne was the guy that got the 4 state capitals that aren't connected by freeways.
Hey.
No, that's it.
So he was a genius.
Genius, total genius.
Yes.
Yeah. No, he was the person who recognized that when words were written, it was impossible to tell where one word ended and the next one began. So what he did was he put spaces at the end of the word, and he came up with punctuation. And writing would never have existed without that concept of just putting space in there.
Yeah.
And then being able to come up with punctuation. So I think that when you're looking at something that goes back to the time of Charlemagne, and then you go back to like the Gutenberg Bible, when all of a sudden writing became something that everybody could have, it was the most effective way of getting specific information and being able to carry it forward. And I think that distinguishes it from everything else. And you're right, growing up, I read biographies. Before I started reading novels, I started reading biographies. And then once I started reading novels, I recognized that they were much more interesting versions of biographies. And I think that helped me tremendously because I saw that almost all the problems were the same. And almost every problem is just not seeing it correctly. And not seeing it correctly is not having the words to describe what's different. And if you don't have the words that are necessary to describe what's different, then everything is the same. So
that's pretty deep right there.
I thought I'd end with something that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And deep thoughts like that could be used with a powerful straw like this. So keep in mind, this could be yours. I might like it too much. Okay, this or a suitable substitute could be yours. Max's thing that he talked about earlier could be yours if I decide to keep the straw. Now that I find it has such value by adding comments to it, I do wish that everybody out there would at least try reading. And if you're going to try reading something, this book is unlike any other book that you've ever read. All books are like every other book that you haven't read because they're basically all different. But this one at least is formatted differently, and there's a value in that. So make comments. Tune in next week. What else do you think I could say?
Buy the book.
Buy the book. That's
Sarah
it. Yeah.
Pitts at unbreakableorigins.com. And there's a chance, if you buy the book, it might come with a free Starbucks straw.
Yeah.
We might start shipping those out too.
Vintage.
Sorry, vintage.
Vintage straw. See,
yes.
Any idiot could go get a straw. This one is and we'll get a close-up of it and put it on the thing someplace. But right here on the straw itself, it says BMI certified straw, compostable, not for use in hot beverages, which I tend to think is wrong because how long have you seen me do this?
Since I've met you.
Yeah, right. So the answer is you can, in fact, drink coffee out of a straw, and it just requires you to recognize that when you're trying to bring it in, that if it's burning your lips at this point, it will burn your mouth, in which case reduce the suction and the liquid will go back into the cup. That's not written on the straw, but if, you could just remember that.
This podcast is nothing more but giving people the opportunity to learn about so many different things in life. Not only the concept and theories of the book, but anything from geographical knowledge to
straw management.
Wow. I was going to say how to drink your coffee better, but I like straw management even more.
See, that's because I read and I recognize the correct way of selling it is a much better word.
Yes, it generally made you smarter.
It did.
At the end of the day.
So that's what it is. So taking a big... Thank you very much. Look forward to next time. Put comments in the comment field. Buy the book. See you next time. Aloha.